right, it looks like we're live. It looks like we're really close to the thing. Okay, hold on. Let's see about. That might be able to do us. So, I didn't get out the serial killer journal tonight. I really need to look at dismantling that cover and redoing the spine before I work on it anymore because it's so full. So, while I talk about tonight's murder, I thought I would process some images. So that's where we're at here. I'm trying to get an idea of what's in my stuff that's already harvested so that I can get it sorted into the appropriate projects and glue books that we have going on. Hey, Adria, how you doing? Welcome to Monday. How's your Monday going? I know you're always busy. I should cut this side off first because it's not completely straight. I've been, I spent, yesterday I filmed a couple of videos. I did my morning live. I missed my live this morning. I had a phone call I had to take. And I'll be back tomorrow. So, where was I going with this? Oh, yesterday I filmed a couple of videos and I moved the ironing board in here. Hey, Carla, how's it going? Well, I'm glad you're here and that you're hopefully will enjoy it. How's you doing, Miss Carla? Hope your Monday went all right. So I'll move the ironing board in here because there's no place else in that unless I want to. The garage isn't that hot right now unless you're out there for longer than like a half an hour, and then it's hot. So I've been taking some paper in and out of the dyeing and drying. And ironing takes hours, honestly. It just takes a hot minute there. All right, I made sort of a circle. Oof, 94 feels like 104. That's no bueno. Sounds like you have some of our weather. I think we're actually having a little bit of a cold spell for us right now. It was supposed to only be 96 yesterday. It says 94 today. Let's see if that was the high. It's like 97 was the high. 74 for the low though, but I didn't spend any time outside last night. Supposed to go back up to 102 tomorrow. With the next 2 nights it says in the 70s, and then nights after that in the 80s. That's not the 90s, so that could be a good thing. That makes the nights a little more pleasant than if they're like 98. Hey, Sherry. Yeah, it says 102 tomorrow. It's 74 now because we had a severe something. Nice. Very nice. How you doing, Miss Sherry? Did you enjoy the couple of cool days? I didn't go outside at all, honestly. I just, it's awkward, so I don't. Look at that. Bee on a flower. How cute. I'm going to take that, hopefully get the number 1 off there without. So yeah, it's cooler than usual for this time of year. And I'm going to take the wins while we get them. It does make the garage nicer to be in the late afternoon and early evening. It brought hail in. Oh, well, that doesn't sound like fun at all. I would not want to be outside in that. I hope you weren't coming home from work during that. Is that... Because that does not sound like fun at all. Probably in December. I probably shouldn't be getting any more mail. I'm not leaving until February. End of February, as a matter of fact. Theoretically. I mean, if an opportunity presents itself, I get a job somewhere that's not in Nevada. And I am applying for jobs in Nevada, but I'm also applying for resort towns. I've applied to a few national parks because I have experience in the national park concessions. So if a job were to come available somewhere besides here, I would definitely be interested in moving for that. But I don't anticipate. Okay. Mysterious. It was rattling in the apartment windows. Well, I'm glad you were at least at home. Goodness. It's no fun to be out in hail. That's not good weather to be out in at all. Well, I will look forward to it. So, I have a killer ready for you guys this week. Last week we covered... Let me see if I have it somewhere. I'm always moving things around. Oh, here we go. Constanzo last week. Born in Miami, killing in Mexico. So that was our last week killer. So this week we are gonna... I was looking for a serial killer who wasn't a rapist. And I don't know technically if the guy I'm going to talk to you about qualifies as a serial killer. I mean, he has more than 3 victims. Hey, Janice, how you doing? I hope that you had an okay Monday and that your weather is, amenable. I'm going to have to cut the 2 off this way, top to bottom. Normally I would be working on the serial killer, but I'm holding off. I really need to do the spine. I was looking at it and I'm worried it's just going to rip in some way if we stuff too much more stuff into it. Okay, Monday, and weather is okay. All right. Very nice. That's a little creepy, the owl on owl thing there. They look like they're very judgy, though. I feel like that's a little bit of owl judgment going on. I love owls. Oh, you're sending me a box tomorrow? Okay. Awesome. We murdered the spine. We did. We have, it hasn't come off yet, but I feel like it's imminent. I mean, it could hold out till the desperate bitter end, but I don't want to risk it falling apart later on. So we're gonna do a little surgery on that. So I'm not working on it tonight. I'm just harvesting from my harvest. Obviously, this was a Birds and Blooms haul, but I have a whole box of stuff. I'm trying to get some more images for our various projects and some stuff for some more. Oh, awesome. Okay. I'll look forward to it, Janice. Thank you. You are awesome. So, but I do have a serial killer prepared. So this guy, kind of a run-of-the-mill criminal type. Interesting upbringing. It's from the New York, New Jersey area. That I can use that for the spine, so that'll be awesome. I can help repair the spino. Have you guys have probably heard of him? I think he was pretty, because he made some outlandish claims, which probably are not true. Well, I'm not getting much sleep, and at the moment, I was sleeping pretty good for a little while, but my stomach's been kind of upset. And then I had, hey, Mari, Aunt Flo visit, and her visit was very unpleasant. Still ongoing. How you, Miss Mari? So we're just getting into tonight's serial killer. So you guys may have heard of him, Richard, and I know I'm going to murder it, Kuklinski, also known as the Iceman. There's true things, and then there's probably very, very false things about him. Okay, so we've got a kitty here and a birdie here. Kitty, birdie. The birdie is a whole picture. The kitty is a partial picture. We'll go birdie. Yeah, mine was, well, she visited the month before, but it had been 4 or 5 months before that. Well, we've missed you too, Miss Mari. It's great to have you in tonight. So have any of you guys, I just had a commercial today on upcoming series on serial killers. Really? I don't, we probably have that channel, but I'm unable to go into the living room at this point. There's no place to sit. Mike has surrounded himself with motorcycle parts. So there are no sittable surfaces out there other than his spot. And his spot is a beanbag chair. And that ain't happening. Also, it would be awkward if I tried to be out there at the same time, So I should get that M off there, huh? So let me cut off this side. So back to Mr. Kuklinski, who was born, and he's an older guy. I think he's dead now. Born in April 1935. Nope, not that guy. Could have been a serial killer, but probably not. Oh, me too, Carla. You guys have heard many of my stories of how Aunt Flo's trying to murder me, basically. Not a pleasant... Did I? Oh. For a minute, I thought I knocked my scissors onto the floor. I'm just taking this M off here for ransom letters. It's a nice-sized M. You had a dog named Radler. Oh, and Val Kilmer in Top Gun. That's right. His character is named Iceman. Associations, right? Well, this guy, although he was born in 1935, and he was a young man / teenager, I don't know. Now I'm doing the math. 35, 45, 55. Yeah, in the 60s. So he was, in his 20s and 30s in the 60s and 70s. And you've never seen the Star Wars? Wow. I've seen almost everything. I may not remember it very well, but I've seen a lot of stuff. You've never seen the Top Gun, and she's never seen Star Wars. I don't know how you could avoid it. Although, I don't know. I like Star Wars, but I'm more of a Star Trek fan, but I'm not hardcore into either one. All right, so he was born in 1935, in April 1935. His father was Stanley Kuklinski, and his mother, Anna McNally, I think his father is Irish American. I'm not sure on the father. Dirty Dancing. That was okay. I'm kind of on the fence about Patrick Swayze. I neither love nor hate him. Um, I'm surprised when I run across people that haven't like seen Star Wars, just because it's so prolific at this point. But if it's not to your personal taste, why would you watch it? you know. So father, you kept hearing Cuckoo Fran and Ollie. Well, it's Kuklinski. You watched it multiple times in the summer. You've seen it 35 times. Oh my. I don't think I would be happy if I had to watch it 35 times. Now, I have seen it more than once because that's the kind of stuff that happened. yeah, yeah. It's kind of like that, isn't it, Kukla, Fran, and Ollie? You've only seen the original. I've seen all of them, and I don't think I'm nobody send me hate mail. I'm not a fan of the continuing story. I just thought it portrayed Anakin / Darth Vader as just a whiny little kid. I don't know. I think it was more about money than anything else. To be honest, I could have done without it. The original stories were good, passable. Like I'm not an extreme fan of really anything. I like a lot of things, but I'm not a diehard fan. I think we're going to keep Degrees of Hibernation. I kind of like it. So he was the second of 4 children. So he had an older brother, a younger brother, and I'm not sure about the other 2. I think he had one sister and maybe another brother. I'm not. Jerry Lewis and Lamb Chop. What is his last name? Oh, okay. Jerry Lewis was Lamb Chop. Yeah, she was the lady with the puppet. It was a little lamb. But his father was a railroad brakeman for one of the bigger railroad companies up in the New York area. His mother was a first generation Irish American from a strong Catholic upbringing. No, I think that's a whole different thing, and probably it's been a long time. Oh, is her daughter now doing? So Lamb Chop lives. I remember it. Vaguely. It was very sweet. The whole thing was very sweet, right? Okay. So we've got a wreath here. So the father was an alcoholic and a violent man. My favorite, the nanny, was Sherry guest starring with Lamb Chop. Oh no, I never saw that one. That was probably funny. So the father was an alcoholic, basically for the whole children's lives. He was abusive. He beat his children regularly. He beat the wife sometimes, but not as regularly as he beat on his children. I think the father is maybe Polish or Russian. The mother is the Irish influence in his family tree. Yeah, Kuklinski, definitely not a traditional Irish name. So as they were growing up, and I don't mean like he smacked them around a little bit. He beat them not only with his fists, but also with things like chairs, belt. So much to the point that around 9-10, he killed the older brother. He beat him to death. Oh, Kuklinski, yeah. They dropped the O when they came through Staten Island. Both the mother and the father were complicit in the death, though, because they hid it. They said he fell down a flight of stairs. So this is Richard Kuklinski's childhood. This is his upbringing. So he grew up brutalized. I'm not saying this is an excuse for his behavior. From his father, like just the most violent abuse. And then his mother was very stern and believed in physical discipline. She was a devout Catholic, and we're talking about the 30s, 40s, and 50s here in New York for an Irish American mother. Physical discipline was not uncommon, but she really did believe in physical discipline, to the point that she did beat him with a broom. Supposedly the broom handle broke, but she was not a happy-go-lucky mother. So he grew up with an abusive and later absentee father. There's some speculation that the father was cheating rampantly, but I heard different things in different videos. So there's not really, I don't think, a firm, other than maybe what Kuklinski himself claimed later on. The father killed the brother, and Richard witnessed it. So early in his life, in his formative years, 8, 9, 10, he witnessed his father kill his brother. Both his mother and his father lied about it and got away with it. The younger brother, coincidentally, raped and murdered a 12-year-old girl in 1970. So he's younger. So he was probably in his 20s then. Raped and murdered a 12-year-old girl, threw her dog and I think her body off of a 5th-story building after he raped her, and went to jail. And later, when Kuklinski was questioned about it, he said, "We're from the same stock, basically. You know, we have the same father. Why are you surprised?" Yes, it's a lovely thing. So I think we're seeing him genetically and environmentally. The cards are not stacked well for him. And I'm not saying people who are in this kind of environment don't come out and live relatively normal lives and are not murderers and all that kind of shit. But I think the deck is kind of stacked against this guy. So that's, I'm just kind of, that's the background kind of thing. Now, his mother raised him as a Catholic. He was made to go to church. He was an altar boy, but he did not like the Catholic Church, and as an adult, eschewed it, and basically really, really hated his mother, although I don't think he ever beat her or anything like that. But I think they were not close because of how she raised him, and he associated it with the Catholic faith, and so he, as an adult, was not a Catholic. So yeah, so that's his setup for all the stuff I'm about to tell you. He is a convicted murderer of 5 people. He claims to have murdered upwards of 100, possibly 200 people as a mafia hitman. I'm going to leave that footnote till the end because it's probably not true. They've never been able to back it up, and none of the crime families that he claims to have performed hits for have ever acknowledged him. So we're going to focus on the 5 people he did kill. All of them were men. So Kuklinski was married twice. His first wife was 9 years older than him, and he had 2 children with her. And then he was married to a second wife in. I'm not. This is how it went down. He murdered the first wife, and they had the kids. And at some point, he fell in love with this other woman, Barbara, and basically immediately divorced the first wife, Linda, and never saw them or his other 2 children. I think they were both boys again. basically cut them out of his life. And maybe they were happy about that, based on what Barbara says about his personality. So with Barbara, he had 3 other children, 2 girls and a boy. The boy being the youngest, I do believe. On the outside, it looked like their family was loving, devoted. The neighbors never suspected that he had a temper or anything. But his wife described him as kind of having 2 sides: good Richie and bad Richie. Good Richie was a devoted, loving father who doted on his children. He provided them basically anything they wanted. And we'll get into how he did that in a minute. But bad Richie, who may be around for days on end, or it may go months in between episodes of Good Richie and Bad Richie, was had a violent temper, fits of rage, abuse to his wife. He was verbally abusive to his children, but apparently because of his own background, he never physically abused them, but they witnessed, his own children did witness the violence against their mother. Told his wife that she belonged to him during an argument where she told him she thought they should see other people. He stabbed her with a knife and said that if she left him, he would kill her whole family. So obviously she stayed with him. Yeah, the news cycle does often repeat itself. Now these are, and I think the children have spoken to that they were not physically abused by him, but emotional abuse can be just as damaging, if not more so. And they did witness the physical abuse towards their mom, which in itself is a form of psychological abuse. So that's his home life. So on one side, his neighbors see this loving, devoted father who dotes on his children and his wife. They're taking family pictures and stuff like that. They host barbecues. They're involved in the community. But on the flip side, he is a terrifying, brutal man who's basically, his wife is scared to leave. So she just basically doesn't question him about anything, which we're getting into his employment next. So they were relatively well-to-do, not rich by any stretch, but they didn't really want for anything, and they lived in a nice house. He told his wife that he was a wholesale distributor, and some of the videos said that he was also an accountant. Although his wife told in some interviews, or said in some, she told in some interviews, that's good language, said in some interviews that she definitely suspected he had a criminal sideline of some sort. She figured he was a legitimate businessman with, a side hustle, essentially. How much she actually knew is debatable because she was not asking any questions. She just go along to get along, kind of, I think. But they always had a decent lifestyle, and he always had large amounts of cash. So they paid for a lot of their stuff in cash. She also stated that he came and went at odd hours, and she never questioned him about it. And that was part of the reason she thought that he was, up to some nefarious stuff. So we're going to start with, hi, Irma. How you doing? Welcome. I think this is probably your first time, at least in the box. We're discussing a serial killer tonight. He's at least a murderer. I think he qualifies as a serial killer. There's some debate on it, but I am classifying. He has 5 victims. Tonight we're speaking about Richard Kuklinski, the Iceman, whose crimes, for what he was arrested for, occurred in the mid-'80s. Well, welcome. I hope we don't scare you off. I'm doing a little, normally I work on my serial killer journal, but we have some spine issues. And so we're just doing some magazine harvesting tonight. Well, we're harvesting from previously harvested images, basically. I'm cutting down other stuff. Mostly I've been talking to the computer screen. So we're just getting, did you just come in now, or are you just now saying hello? Because I'll do a brief recap for you if you just got here. We might keep Berry Delight for the Foodatini. Just came in. Okay. So our criminal and serial killer, Richard Kuklinski, known as the Iceman, born in April 1935, to first-generation immigrant mother Anna, and Polish or Russian father Stan Kuklinski, who worked for the railroad. Second of 4 children, from a very brutal family background. The father was an alcoholic and an abuser, and the mother was a strict Catholic who believed in physical punishment, and forced all of her children to go to be good Catholics, basically. And he witnessed his older brother getting murdered, and his younger brother was convicted as a rapist. So, yay. All the fun details. We're getting into his job. He's twice married. He cut his first wife and children out of his life when he met his second wife, and he had 3 children with his second wife. And it was a mixed bag for them. He's described as a loving and doted father, but he also had an abusive side, and I think they lived with him in fear. And kind of walking on eggshells situation. So in the mid-60s, which he would have been in his 20s then, he's no longer a teenager, he got a job and he worked at a big film lab in Manhattan. Through that, he bootlegged movies, including Disney movies. And then he worked his way where he was bootlegging pornography and reselling that. Now, let's see. There are some differing opinions on a connection with crime families. Now, like I said at the beginning, he does claim to have been a hitman for the mob. But that has never been substantiated. So they're saying there's a possibility that he became involved with the Gambino crime family. But he was definitely the head of a burglary ring or group of his own creation, and that he was periodically, in his own way, a burglar and a criminal, stealing things and having them fenced by a guy he knew. So there's dubious ties to the Gambino crime family, although they have never substantiated it. Yeah, he's definitely up to no good. So he seems to have had kind of a regular job, but mostly he was stealing things and reselling them. And all of his killings that he gets caught for now are related to this theft and him trying to make business deals or approaching men with business deals and then killing them. And they all seem, for some reason, had large amounts of cash on them, which he took. And then, maybe as a hitman, the psychological opinion of him seems to have been that he was a very violent man who basically monetized his natural inclinations. But his suave, I guess, his ability to actually hide his crimes is questionable, because between what I'm about to tell you and the Gambino family bit, so we're talking about the 60s and then the 70s with the Gambino crime family. where he was engaged in probably petty theft and stuff like that. Stuff fell off a truck. So he may have had minor associations with the mob in relation to theft and stuff like that. But he was mostly selling bootleg pornography, and that may be how he came in to some criminal ties, which he then built up and made to seem greater than they were. But they would not have embraced somebody who did what I'm about to tell you he did, because he didn't do a very good job of covering his tracks, in my opinion. So the first of his killings happened in January 30th, 1980. He killed George Maliband for $27,000. He met the guy to sell him tapes, which I'm assuming are the bootleg porn or other films, or possibly blank tapes for him to. There are varying accounts. I heard at least 4 different things in different videos, but he was basically selling him tapes. So the guy showed up with the money, but he, I think this is the one, he told his brother where he was going, and so there's an admitted link between him. So he was basically the last person who met with Maliband before he was killed. He killed the guy, and then he put him in a 55-gallon drum and rolled it into a ravine, and he didn't do a very good job because the lid came off, the body kind of came out, and it was discovered a week later. Later, when he was, after these 5 killings, when he was finally fully caught, he took a plea bargain and admitted to some of these other shootings. Yes, one of the videos I saw was translating some of the sums into today's dollars, and it's quite a bit. That would have been a lot of money in 1980. Yeah. No, nothing. It would be, for some people, enough to kill today even. That's grocery money right there. His second victim was Paul Hoffman, a 51-year-old pharmacist who browsed at something called the Store, which is a pawn shop with an area where people could go and browse in the back, I guess, for all kinds of stolen items, where you could buy and resell, basically. The pharmacist in particular was looking for a drug called Tagamet, which was for peptic ulcers, which is weird. Maybe it was a big problem in the 80s and that was something that was sought after. I don't know. It just seemed weird, but that's what he was looking for. And he was basically badgering Kuklinski to make a deal with him. So he took him, so he agreed, and he took him to a place where they were supposed to make the trade. He tried to shoot Hoffman, but the gun misfired or was jammed. And he beat him to death with a tire and stuffed him also in a 55-gallon drum, which he left outside of a hotel, and which later disappeared, and the body was never found. I know there was an amount of money that he took off this body as well. I heard varying amounts, anything from something that would have been equal to about $1 million today. So the first couple, it was steel drums, and then later he was not doing that because the police were kind of onto him. He was, in both of these cases, he was linked back to be the last person. And although they couldn't arrest him at the time, probably in Hoffman's case because the body was never found, but they were unable to arrest and or convict him at the time. So they were basically just amassing a case against him. And he thought and I think he probably thought he was so slick that he was untouchable. But he doesn't ever say that in any of his interviews that I could tell. The third victim was Gary Smith. And then his next 2 victims after that were also in his gang. So he killed 3 people. These are part of his burglary gang. Because one of them got arrested. I think it was this Gary Smith guy. And was taken to jail, and it was probably going to be Tagamet was an RX at one point, over the counter, and then people died. So stripped off market. You love Tagamet. I guess he thought he could make a big profit if he could get it, from an other than legitimate source, and give it to people who wanted it without prescriptions. So the first guy that he killed in his had been arrested, and so he was afraid he would become an informant, and he didn't want none of that. So they were, I think, burglarizing high-end residences and businesses and stealing anything that basically wasn't nailed down, and then selling it to this guy at, quote-unquote, the store. It had another name, but I failed to write it down, and I'm sorry about that. So this guy, I may have the names mixed up. I didn't write down the names of the other two victims. There's a Wikipedia article that lists in depth these people. He killed these three people. I think it's this guy. He poisoned a hamburger that he brought him. He went out to get food and he brought back hamburgers. He had laced this guy burger with cyanide. So he started, and cyanide in enough quantity will kill you quickly. So he was choking and having the effects of the cyanide, but Kuklinski felt like it was taking too long, so he took the cord off a lamp in the hotel room they were staying in because they were hiding out after. So this was maybe it's the second guy. They were hiding out after the first guy got arrested. I think is what happened, but I think he had already killed the guy. He was known for freezing some of his victims. And one guy he held for almost 2 years in a freezer and then dumped his body, but somewhere near where his family vacationed. It was ridiculous. But he then strangled the guy. And then, and this may be the case you heard of, they put the guy's body in between the box spring and the mattress in the hotel room and left. And the hotel room was rented out several times, and guests complained of smells, but they didn't find the body for 4 days. And the coroner who did the autopsy said that if they hadn't strangled him and put him under the mattress, if they had just poisoned him and left him in the hotel room, they would have thought that he had had a drug overdose. They would probably not have even autopsied him. They would have assumed it was a drug overdose. So they got themselves caught. Kuklinski and one of his guys and the guy's wife, the wife was supposed to come with the car to take the body away, and she didn't, and that's why they stuffed it in the mattress. But I'm thinking, and I saw this in one of the videos I watched, yeah, a body's not a small thing. I don't know how big the guy was or how fat or how skinny. Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, I think so. That's a lumpy mattress. Who's not looking at that? Who's going into that room to change the sheets and shit and not like going, why is this so lumpy? Was this so lumpy yesterday? It's just weird. So it might have been a not very nice hotel where they didn't change the sheets all the time. So he killed 2 more of his associates, and he was later arrested and linked to all of these killings. For rent by the hour. They probably weren't paying by the hour because they were hiding out there, but yeah, probably not it was probably not like a Holiday Inn. So he did kill 5 people in his business dealings, and that doesn't make him so different from hold on a second. What did I do with it? From that other guy that we did. That what did I do with the paper? Richard, I think it was also Richard. Where he was killing business associates, but they, he was meeting these women, and so it was business related. His motivations weren't necessarily sexual; they were financial. So this guy's motive was financial, and he was into the no-tell motel. We don't tell you there's no body in the room. There's a body in. Yeah, that just seems weird to me. That like nobody like went, why is that mattress so lumpy? Like, how bad was this motel? So here is the kind of an overview of his outlandish claims. So where I said he met the Gambino family after he became, he worked at this film lab. He was bootlegging movies and then into pornography movies, and then the link to the crime family. And he says the link. Dick is not a great. I don't know how they got together, Richard, but it's a thing. He says at some point that somebody in the Gambino family admired him for his cool head under pressure and asked him to take a contract, basically, and kill a guy, which he says he did. So he's saying during the time between this mid-60s job, bootlegging and shit, and this point at which he actually started killing his people, and didn't do it because in all the instances he was directly linked to them as his conspirators in burglary, or he was the last person they were seen with. To Andy Dahl. But he claims to have killed at least 100 people. Some of his more outrageous claims are that he hit on 200 people. There are some videos out there from basically it's a series of 23 or more interviews with a mob hitman, and he says the guy was full of shit, but there are no substantiated in all the crime family biographies and autobiographies and histories where he is mentioned in any way. So I think it was partially in order to give him standing in prison, because people associated with crime families I guess are treated very well in prison. So he may have been glorifying that, whatever connection. He might have had a minor connection, which is what I think. He maybe knew somebody who knew somebody, or he had some dealings with the crime family with the bootlegging. Yes, they did make a movie, but there's actually been 3 movies about him. He's street cred on the cell block. But no one claims him, and he could have never been a made man. He would have been just a minor player because he wasn't Italian. He was Polish, Russian, Irish immigrant background. So there's no way he was going to be in the Italian crime family. I'm not saying he didn't have dealings with them, but there's no proof that he was a hitman for them. But yeah, I think it was to glorify himself in prison so that he wouldn't have as much, too many problems, basically. And that's our guy. 5 people. I think he's a serial killer. He certainly got the early psychology for it. I think he liked violence. I think he liked hurting people. I think he grew up on that as mother's milk, basically. And while he tried to be a family man, he didn't succeed very well at it. I think his family lived in abject terror of what he could possibly do, and they were probably relieved when he went to prison. His wife visited him for a while after he went to prison. She divorced him, I think, 3 years after he went to prison for quote-unquote money reasons. And thereafter, she visited him, but only once a year. Probably on his birthday or something. I don't know. But he wasn't Italian in any way. He had Irish background, but he's Russian after that. His dad was Russian or Polish. So I think he qualifies as a serial killer. He has 5 definite victims. And one of the cops said he might have as many as 15 victims. because of all of his, business deals kind of thing, where he was kind of, meet me at so and so and I'll hand over the merchandise, you give me the money. The guys would show up with the money and he would kill them. I think he got away with it those 2 times before he offed 3 of his business associates. So it's possible there were other deals like that where the guy didn't tell his brother, hey, I'm going to meet Richard Kuklinski and I'll be back later with some stuff. So they're saying maybe as many as 15 people, but certainly not at the level he was claiming. And it's very, 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 very unlikely he was a mafia hitman. No, I don't think so. I think she was relieved when he went away, and probably his children too. So I would say, up to 15 people. He probably offed a few more than what he got caught for. And some of the videos I watched went into great detail about his business associates and how many other people he may have killed and the ways that he killed them. So he went from beating them and shooting them, which was messy. He was experimenting with poison later. And I think if he hadn't got caught, he probably would have continued to poison people and maybe perfected that as his method. Sit down, we'll have a meal, we'll discuss our business. And the next thing you know, you're dead and he's got your money. So I don't think of him as being very successful, quite honestly, because he didn't cover his tracks very well. And if you're already a successful mafia hitman, which he's claiming he was before these murders, you would know how to cover your tracks a little better, don't you think? So, questions, comments, opinions? What do you guys think? Serial killer, not serial killer? Yeah, he didn't do a very good job at that. He was kind of lazy about it, I feel like. I think he could have been highly successful if he was freezing bodies, Why didn't he go to greater effort to hide the bodies once he actually disposed of them? I didn't find any videos that really went into detail about why he was so lazy about it, other than maybe he just was that cocky, Yeah, he seemed to have a loose plan, but not any definite, once I kill this guy, what am I going to do with the body? And maybe he figured bragging about mob ties would keep anybody from, directly trying to tie him to it. I don't know why he would think that, but, because they were always trying to get the mob on something. I just thought we'd try one that didn't have any rape in it this time. Other than the brother, who was obviously... and not any better at disposing of bodies, because he just chucked it off a roof and then he got caught. Not that I wanted him to get away with it, because, raping a 12-year-old girl, no bueno, I think they should have thrown him off the 5-story building, but, A pecker picture, yes. We got a picture of a pecker. Right there, just going to town on that tree. A bad plan. No, he said planning was not his strong suit. You gotta wonder what goes through people's heads, Why? Why did he think he could get away with that? Or maybe he'd already gotten away with a few and he just got lazy. It's possible he had more victims before that. And as he got away with more of them, he just got lazy towards the end. Mari. Well, I don't think he was in Mensa for sure. And he was not, I don't know if he even graduated high school. I couldn't tell you to be sure. They didn't really talk about his education, so I'm assuming street smarts over book smarts. And he didn't seem to have the street smarts, you know, very well wrapped up. Just my opinion, though. Yeah, I think he was spinning his own kind of folk story that he hoped that his fellow lowlifes would buy, and that gave him some cred, you know, for the things he was doing. It's a picture of Dan. Which one? I'm not going to be able to get that one because there's words. That's a house finch. I'm going to take this red bird after all. I think it's the cleanest get. The quail. Yeah, so I just, interesting case. The 80s is full of, you know, stuff like that. But I think he had certainly the psychology of a serial killer. And well, I kind of like that picture of the frosted berries. Haha, I said frosted berries. And I became a 12-year-old boy in that second. So do you guys have any ideas about what kind of killer we want to look at next, or maybe a specific case you'd like to look into? I always like to ask. Sometimes you guys have great ideas. And otherwise, I just go and I search and I read about various killers and then I pick one. We got the glare tonight, don't we? That's just no fun. Let's see, what do we got here? Black-capped chickadee. It's a tiny bird. They are interesting. A British serial killer, okay. That's not Jack the Ripper, because Els covered that in some depth. Oh, here we go. Oh, that's the other guy. Where my one's this one? So, a British guy, something from Alaska. All right, I'll look into it and see what we can come up with. I probably can't find a British guy in Alaska, but we'll see what's out there. Or an Alaskan who's also a Brit. I don't know. It would get weird there. They are the cutest birds, are they? It looks like it's tiny because his pictures are really big, really zoomed in. Because all the stuff around him is blurry. Or Canadian. A very polite serial killer? There must be Canadian serial killers. Nothing comes to mind immediately, but sometimes I go and read things. I'm like, oh yeah. They are tiny but fussy. I love the hummingbirds we have in the backyard. We have a couple of females, and they're kind of at war with each other. And then there's a male who wants to get with one of the females, and she won't have nothing to do with him. That would be the Holkus husband and wife serial killer team. All right, I'll see what else is out there, though, for Alaska. And you never know what you can find once you start poking around. I just thought for this time out, maybe not a rapey one. The guy was, Kuklinski was definitely a low life, you know. Even though he lived kind of middle class, he wasn't, I don't think he ever escaped his childhood, you know. His mom worked for a meatpacking plant and his dad worked for the railroad, so they were definitely blue collar. And with 4 kids, you know, in the 30s and 40s, I'm guessing that was not, you know, the best of circumstances. But he did not rise above that. He just got sunk into it. Yeah. Yeah, I know there was that movie with Nick Cage in it that I recommended a while back. I think it was On Frozen Ground, about a brutal serial killer based in Alaska. It was a good movie. Some of it was fictionalized, but yeah. He was abducting women and treating them as sex slaves and then killing them. And he was a married man with a family and everything. I'm not saying working in a meatpacking plant is a bad thing. I'm just saying they were not, you know, his upbringing is a blue collar upbringing and probably a low end one, based on the fact that his father was alcoholic, and absentee a lot of the time, you know. So then having 4 children and providing for them fell on the mother, who did work at a meatpacking plant, you know. I'm not disparaging that she was working in a meatpacking plant. You make your money how you make your money, you know. Yeah, maybe that's where I got the idea. I'm a little bit weirded out by this picture, but also the fact that that guy's wearing socks implies that he's got his shoes on and they're stuck in that bathtub with that lady. With his little short pants and everything. Then she went and became a hairdresser. Well, that's, you know, people got to get their hair cut. That's not a bad living. Probably less smelly than, or smelly in a different way than meatpacking plant. Okay, this one's already done. There's just a variety of stuff stuck in this box. Ew, look. Chocolate. All right, so I think we've reached the end of it for today. I will look into a British guy for upcoming weeks and Canadians and Alaskans, and we'll see what we can find out. I hope that you guys were, you know, that you liked today's case. I know it's a little bit different, and there is some speculation that he's not truly a serial killer. I feel like he meets the criteria. And I feel like he just wasn't very good at it, too. Oh, you guys are welcome. There will be a video out tomorrow, and I'll be live on Wednesday for a magazine harvesting video that made salads, sandwiches, and wraps. And they had an instant chill freezer. Oh, you're welcome. So I'll see you guys again on Wednesday if you are available. Look for a video tomorrow for the tiny teeny with our itty bitty images on our receipt tape. And then I'll be live again on Friday for Hanging in the Hollow, where we'll do something fun. So I hope that you guys had a great evening. I hope you have a great Tuesday and a great rest of your week. However you guys are spending your days and nights, I hope it brings you great joy and happiness. Each and every one of you absolutely deserves it. You too, Irma. Thanks for coming and spending some time with us. I hope that we'll see you again. I hope it brings you great joy and happiness because each and every one of you absolutely deserves it. Until I see you in one of my lives or in a box somewhere, I wish you guys the happiest of crafting. Bye, 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 bye. The end. Let's push the button. Pushing the button. Night, ladies.